The peace ceremony was a spectacle, banners of alien silk unfurling in zero gravity, orchestral hums of both human and Zerati origin resonating through the chamber like whispers of forgotten stars. Cameras floated in silent orbits, capturing every angle for galactic broadcast. Humanity's president smiled with rehearsed warmth, the imperial envoy bowed with calculated grace, and the whole scene shimmered with the illusion of unity. General Amelia Cale watched from the observation ring, arms folded behind her back, uniform sharp and unadorned. Her eyes didn't flicker when the treaty was signed. She didn't clap when the crowd below erupted into applause. Her silence wasn't disapproval. It was the weight of knowledge, years of buried truths, and a war that never truly ended. To the galaxy, the universal accord marked the end of hostilities. To Amelia, it was the beginning of the final act. She left the ceremony before the closing speeches, ducking into a corridor lit only by the dull pulse of emergency-ready panels. A young officer, Lieutenant Chen, fell into step beside her, clutching a data slate with trembling fingers. They made the announcement. "Peace is official," he said, tone careful. Amelia didn't slow. "How long before the fleet repositions?" 2 hours, ma'am. Imperial Command already issued new patrol vectors. They're consolidating around Earth orbit, under the pretense of joint exercises. Amelia let out a breath that was almost a laugh. They couldn't even wait a day. It had taken 20 years for humanity to reach this fragile point. 2 decades since the first contact war had ended with a human fleet in ruins and Earth smoldering. The Galactic Empire had arrived not with diplomacy, but with demands. Humanity resisted, bled, and nearly perished. Then the offer of peace came. Limited sovereignty in exchange for protection and access to superior wisdom. The price of survival. Most called it mercy. Amelia called it leash work. In the silence of the elevator descending to Central Command, she watched Chen's reflection in the polished steel. He was too young to remember the early days, when orbital bombardments had turned cities into craters, when AI cores were sacrificed to stall Imperial dreadnoughts. But he was old enough to be angry. That made him useful. The doors opened to the subterranean war room. It was darker now than during the war, stripped of public glory, buried beneath layers of false peace. The hum of deep-core generators resonated beneath their boots. A holographic display hovered above the central console, displaying Earth's orbital paths. Red dots bloomed like infections across the map. Imperial warships, perfectly timed and coordinated. Colonel Shira Vaughn greeted them, her cybernetic eyes glowing faintly in the dim. "They're tightening the net. 5 new carriers, just decloaked over Europa." Amelia stepped forward, gaze sharp. "What about the signal?" Vaughn nodded. "We cracked it." A flick of her wrist, and the intercepted message lit the air in sharp alien glyphs, auto-translating as it scrolled. Phase transition imminent. Human resistance estimated below 3%. Begin installation of governors within 60 days. Neutralize non-compliant leadership discreetly. Chin cursed under his breath. Vaughn just looked tired. Amelia leaned in, reading the words twice, her jaw clenched. "They think we're domesticated," she said quietly. "We let them think that," Vaughn replied. And they had. 4 years, humanity had played the part of the humbled ally. They gave up weaponized AI research, publicly. They dismantled their moon-based arsenals, on camera. They opened trade routes and accepted alien advisors into their government. But under the ice of Europa, in the fractured caverns of Olympus Mons, humanity had been busy. Deep within the asteroid belt, stealth stations had flourished. Engineers had rebuilt forbidden technologies, AI minds reborn in isolated cores. Prototypes were tested on rogue planets, out beyond Saturn's whisper. All of it under Amelia's direction. The war had never stopped. It had simply gone quiet. She tapped the console. A different map appeared, this one showing hidden human asset. Faint blue dots, cloaked ships, AI nodes, encrypted outposts. Fewer than the Empire's forces. But smarter. leaner. Human. Do we go loud? Vaughn asked. Amelia hesitated, then shook her head. Not yet. Let them make the first move. We want history to remember who started the Second War. Assuming we survive it. We will. Her voice carried certainty like steel drawn from fire. A chime echoed through the room. Incoming encrypted signal. Amelia recognized the source code, an old Lazarus protocol ping. It had been dormant for years. The room stilled. Vaughn activated it. A message unfolded in the air, an image of an Imperial fleet moving through an uncharted system. Below it, a name, Operation Reclamation, and a timestamp, 7 days from now. The Empire wasn't just tightening the leash. They were preparing to pull it tight. Amelia stepped back, eyes narrowing. Wake up the sleeper crews, she said. Reactivate Project Warden. And send word to the Mars Enclave. We go black within the hour. Chen looked up, his fear replaced with resolve. We're really doing this? They're already doing it, Amelia replied. We're just going to make sure they choke on it. As the war room flickered into activity and the blue lights glowed like old ghosts returning to battle, Amelia allowed herself one long look at Earth's image hovering above. Still whole. Still free, if barely. She would see it remain that way. For now, the treaty held. But so did humanity's blade. The first attack came cloaked in protocol. An Imperial frigate docked at Lunar Station Theta, ostensibly for a routine inspection. It carried no insignia, no diplomats, only black-armored Marines and a single directive: sever command links to Earth. They moved with cold precision, disabling servers, isolating communications, and subduing personnel with stun pulses. One technician fought back. He was incinerated on the spot. The Marines didn't issue warnings. They weren't there for diplomacy. By the time Central Command received the distress signal, it was already a recording. Lieutenant Chen watched it 3 times before speaking. They're not even hiding it anymore. Amelia stood behind him, arms crossed, her expression carved from stone. Why should they? They think we're unprepared. Powerless. He turned to her, voice taut. Are we? No, she didn't blink. We've been ready longer than they've known we survived. She turned to the console, inputting an encrypted override. Across hidden channels buried beneath Earth's official networks, a single word flashed in cold blue code. Awaken. The world shifted. From the asteroid mines of Ceres to the submerged platforms of the Pacific Trench, dormant systems surged to life. Cloaked satellites unspooled like sleeping serpents. AI war nodes blinked awake, whispering in languages long purged from sanctioned servers. Across the Martian plains, camouflaged hangars groaned open as long-hidden ships hissed into readiness. The Empire didn't notice immediately. They were too focused on their containment drills, moving capital ships into strategic Earth orbit, jamming public communications with declarations of joint exercises. Their broadcasts still carried the symbols of unity. But anyone watching closely could see the formation patterns. They weren't securing peace. They were preparing a strike. Amelia returned to the war room where Colonel Vaughn had already pulled up tactical overlays. Initial vectors suggest a decapitation plan, Vaughn said grimly. They'll strike Earth's surface last. First, they'll wipe orbital defense. Let them try. Amelia keyed into the targeting interface. Are our orbital stealth units in position? Every one. With a quiet nod, Amelia spoke the command that shattered the illusion of peace. Engage. Above Earth's night side, invisible to civilian eyes, a fleet of human warships decloaked. Smaller than the Imperial cruisers, but faster, sharper, blades of human defiance drawn in silence. They moved in synchronized volleys, launching kinetic slugs and plasma bursts at precise weak point. No broadcast. No warning. The Empire's outer line disintegrated in under 60 seconds. Inside the command cruiser Valken, 1, Admiral Resch of the Zerati Empire reeled, mandibles clattering in confusion. Human vessels? Where did they? Static drowned the rest of his sentence as his ship's hull split open in a storm of light and vacuum. Amelia didn't flinch as the confirmation scrolled across the screen. 4 Imperial warships destroyed. 2 disabled. Minimal human casualties. She leaned forward, watching the live feed of spaceborne fire. That was a warning shot. Vaughn raised an eyebrow. A warning. Amelia's eyes were steel. If I wanted them dead, they'd be ashes. But the real war wasn't only in space. On Europa, Imperial logistics teams preparing for phase deployment found themselves ambushed by miners who weren't miners at all. Civilian mechs, long thought scrapped, turned on their handlers, tearing apart supply lines. EMP bursts disrupted command AI. Resistance cells surged from ice caverns armed with weapons decades ahead of what the Empire believed humanity possessed. Titan's terraforming outpost, once considered lost to system error, broadcast a single message across secure bands: sovereignty reasserted. By the end of the first day, 5 colonies had gone dark on the Empire's map, not from destruction, but from defiance. The galaxy listened and watched. Amelia's next move wasn't violence, it was a transmission. Her face filled feeds from pirate channels to backdoor Imperial network. No anthem, no banners. Just her, in uniform, a dark void behind her. The treaty you offered us was a lie, she began, voice low, unwavering. We accepted it to survive. Not because we were fooled. We've been watching. Preparing. She gestured slightly, and footage flickered across the feed. Imperial ships firing on unarmed platforms. Colonists fleeing bombardment. Secret orders in alien script, translated and time-stamped. You thought humanity had forgotten how to fight. You mistook patience for submission. You were wrong. She paused. This is not a declaration of conquest. This is a rejection of chains. Then the feed cut, leaving only silence, and the uneasy breath of worlds held in suspense. Within the hour, whispers began among the Empire's lesser members. The Velek Consortium closed its wormgate to Imperial traffic. The neutral Trin guilds offered sanctuary to human refugees. Even among the Imperial Senate, murmurs of overreach stirred. Amelia watched the chaos unfold like a conductor listening to the first notes of a rising score. But her focus remained sharp. They'll strike back hard, Trin said quietly, seated beside her. We humiliated them. They were always going to strike, Amelia replied. We just made the first blow count. Vaughn approached with a tablet. Signal from the inner ring. Looks like they've activated the reclamation protocols. The words landed heavy. So they're skipping diplomacy altogether, Amelia said. They're going to burn us out and rewrite the narrative. Vaughn hesitated. Unless we stop them mid-act. Amelia nodded. Then we don't just fight. We expose every lie, every backdoor deal. We flood the galaxy with their sins. Chen's voice cut in. Ma'am, satellite sweep just found something. Outer orbit. Structure with FTL relay signatures. It's not on any known chart. Amelia crossed the room to the display. The station pulsed faintly, hidden behind solar interference. Alien architecture. Imperial colors. A communication nexus. And the key to severing the Empire's coordination. She looked at Vaughn. Prep strike teams. I want boots on that relay by morning. If we cut their voice, they go blind. For the first time, Amelia allowed herself a small smile. The enemy had misjudged humanity. They saw flesh where there was fire, silence where there was storm. Let them learn. The infiltration of the Imperial relay station wasn't silent, it was surgical. Human strike teams pierced its outer perimeter under the cloak of a solar flare, shielded by radiation bursts that blinded standard Imperial sensors. Their ships were modified mining craft, hulls dusted with reflective alloys that mimic space debris. By the time the Empire registered the incursion, 30 soldiers had already breached the core. Amelia monitored the operation from the Argent Dawn, her command ship nestled in the black between Neptune's orbit and the Kuiper Belt. The relay was their last intact communications hub in this sector. Destroying it would cripple their coordination. But Amelia wasn't there to destroy it. She needed it listening. Colonel Vaughn's voice crackled through the bridge. Team 1 is inside. Encountering heavier resistance than expected. Looks like the Empire anticipated an assault, just not this soon. Hold them, Amelia said. Secure the databanks. We're not leaving until we extract their command protocols. She leaned over the tactical console, eyes tracing the lines of enemy movement. The Empire hadn't learned humility. They were doubling down. Earth's orbit had become a fortress of rotating dreadnoughts. Planetary jamming fields had gone up. Civilian traffic was grounded across 12 systems. Martial law, masked as joint planetary security enforcement. Even now, a second wave of ships was closing in on the relay station, faster than expected. Amelia clenched her jaw. Vaughn, status. We've breached the vault. Pulling core data now, this is deeper than we thought. They've got planetary conquest plans dated back 10 years. Full societal overwrite models. Human identity erasure through selective genetic assimilation. Chen, monitoring from the adjacent console, looked sick. They weren't just planning occupation. They were planning replacement. No culture. No dissent, Amelia murmured. Just obedience. The bridge lights dimmed as another encryption layer unfurled on screen. Buried in the files was something else. A transmission chain not meant for Zerati command, but for a race Amelia had only heard about in whispers. The Varn Dominion. They weren't operating alone, she said. The Empire's been feeding Varn intelligence everything, our fleet movements, diplomatic contact. They were setting up a joint subjugation. Vaughn's voice sharpened. You think the Varn were going to swoop in after we were softened? I think we're the test case, Amelia said coldly. If we fold, the rest of the outer galaxy follows. A warning klaxon pulsed through the Argent Dawn's bridge. Enemy ships dropping from FTL, a full wing of Imperial interceptors. Evac path? Amelia asked. Blocked, Chen said. But there's a micro-jump vector we could thread, barely stable. Amelia paused. Get our teams out. Secure that data. Transmission uplink is spotty, but possible, Vaughn said. Sending compressed package now. On screen, the core data began to stream, fragment by fragment. 10%. 20. 40. The relay station shook with impact. Feed jittered. 60%. A fireball bloomed across the station's upper wing. Static tore through the signal. 85%. Almost there, Chen whispered. Don't say that, Vaughn snapped. 98. The screen blinked green. Transfer complete. Then the screen went dark. No audio. No signal. The team was gone. The bridge fell into silence. Amelia didn't flinch. Her voice was level. Get that data parsed and scattered. Every major news net, every underground channel. I want the galaxy to see what the Empire hides. Vaughn's voice was quieter now. That team knew what they were walking into. They didn't die in silence, Amelia said. They died to make the truth deafening. Within hours, the data was viral. The footage of the Empire's plans, the genetic overwrite sequences, the communications with the Varn, undeniable. Alien senators stormed out of Imperial hearings. Trade guilds severed ties. 3 neutral systems declared full embargoes. The illusion cracked, and from the seams, anger rose. The Empire responded with rage. They struck at human colonies in brutal retaliation, glassing outposts and vaporizing satellite. But they no longer controlled the story. For every atrocity they committed, 10 more voices rose against them. Human resistance wasn't alone anymore. Still, Amelia knew it wouldn't be enough. Churn, she said, entering the encrypted map room. How long until the Varn arrive? He looked up, grim. 2 weeks. Their fleets move faster than the Empire's. If they join forces before we're ready. They won't. She expanded a star map, highlighting a dead zone between systems. We intercept them here. That's where we show them the cost of underestimating us. Chen hesitated. You think we can win? No, her gaze didn't waver. But we can make sure they never forget we fought. The war wasn't over. The Empire still held numbers, tech allies. But something had shifted. Humanity wasn't playing dead anymore. And now, the galaxy was watching. The Varn fleet arrived like a shadow sweeping across the stars. Sleek obsidian hulls wrapped in layered graviton armor, silent and unreadable, their formations mathematically perfect. They did not broadcast warnings. They didn't need to. The message was in their presence. The Zerati Empire had called in its executioners. From the Argent Dawn, Amelia watched the sensor readouts shift from red to black. Varn signatures didn't trigger conventional threat alert. It was almost poetic, she thought, how something so deadly could register as absence. They're positioning along the Kepler drift, Chen reported. Same corridor we predicted. Vaughn studied the path projection. They're not meeting with the Empire. They're encircling it. Like they're assessing viability. Of conquest or cooperation, Amelia murmured. Maybe both. The strategic overlay flickered. Imperial ships began adjusting their orbit, subtly moving out of the Varn's line of sight. A ripple of unease passed through the command deck. Even the Empire feared them. That was telling. What's the chatter? Amelia asked. Chen tapped his console. Zerati signals are panic. They're rerouting dignitaries. There's no shared command channel between them and the Varn. Nothing coordinated. It's like the Empire made a deal, but didn't read the fine print. Amelia's jaw tightened. They thought the Varn were a leash. Turns out they're a scythe. The decision came quickly. We need to make contact, she said. Vaughn raised an eyebrow. With them? Amelia, we don't know how the Varn think. We don't even know if they respect negotiation. They respect strength, she replied. And they respect survival. She keyed into the long-range relay interface and activated a narrowband pulse, an ancient diplomatic code, barely used since the first contact wars. A message followed, direct and simple. Humanity is not prey. If you must hunt, come see our teeth. The galaxy held its breath. 3 hours passed before a single Varn vessel broke formation. It detached from the fleet like a drifting shadow, gliding toward neutral space at subluminal speed, slow, deliberate, not aggressive. Amelia met it aboard the station orbiting Deimos, alone save for Chen monitoring from the control room and 2 security drones that wouldn't last seconds against a real threat. The Varn envoy did not speak through words. It projected thought, a compression of language, memory, judgment. Amelia's mind stummed with the contact, 1,000 impressions at once. Predator. Survivor. Unbroken lineage. Seed of war. Then, why resist a storm with flesh? She answered aloud, firm. Because storms pass. We remain. A pulse of silence. Then another wave. The Empire promised your silence. Amelia didn't look away. And yet I speak. There was a pause, contemplative, calculating. What value does your voice carry if your bones turn to ash? She stepped forward. Because our story doesn't end in ash. It ends in rebellion. In fire. And fire spreads. The envoy regarded her. Time stretched. Then came the final echo. We will watch. Once. And the presence withdrew. Back aboard the Argent Dawn, Chen stared at her in disbelief. They're standing down? No, she said. They're waiting. The Varn fleet didn't retreat. But neither did they advance. They held their formation like sentinels at the edge of the system, watching both the Empire and humanity, neither ally nor enemy, for now. But the effect was immediate. Across the Empire's territory, governors paused. Military deployments slowed. Civilian protests surged, emboldened by the stall. Humanity's defiance had bought something even more valuable than victory: time. Amelia returned to the bridge, where Vaughn stood staring at the galactic overlay, the theater of conflict rewritten before their eyes. So what now? He asked. She looked at the quiet spaces between stars, then at Earth, still bristling with Imperial warships. Now, she said, we make our story louder than their guns. And humanity did. Through signal hijacks and smuggled footage, they told the truth, of betrayal, of resistance, of sacrifice. Names of fallen operatives became symbols etched into orbiting stations. Children in colony shelters sang the old Earth anthems once banned. Former allies of the Empire began re-evaluating allegiances. The Varn watched it all in silence. The final blow didn't come with missiles or mutiny, but with revelation. A defecting Imperial archivist released the full treaty transcript, the one signed a decade prior. It included a clause the Empire had buried, a failsafe allowing them to revoke human autonomy at will, without cause. The galaxy erupted. 29 member worlds of the Imperial Council voted to suspend the Zerati Charter. Embargoes snapped into place. Fleets turned inward, forced to defend home territories rather than enforce outer conquest. And humanity stood, bruised, burning, but unbroken. In the dim light of Earth's upper orbit, Amelia watched the sunrise through reinforced glass. The sky was less crowded now. Most of the warships had withdrawn. Some were still out there, waiting. But not moving. Chern approached quietly. Peace. She shook her head. No. Just a pause. Vaughn joined them, his voice dry. Long enough to breathe. Amelia didn't smile, but she did nod. Long enough, she said, to prepare for what comes next.